Hi class, here is your chemistry video lecture for Tuesday, January 12th. We're going to start off today doing some Bellwork based on the trends information we learned in yesterday's class. So let's hop to it. Our first series of questions are some true or false. Again, we're looking at trends here. So our first question there, question part A, true or false? A bismuth atom is larger than a phosphorus atom. Well, first we've got to find these on the periodic table. Well, here's bismuth over here. Phosphorus is above it. Now, if we remember from our trends, right, as you go down, they get bigger. So phosphorus should be bigger. I'm sorry, the bismuth should indeed be bigger than phosphorus because it's lower. So our first one here is true. Part B and C, these talk about reactivity. So first one, oxygen is less reactive than selenium. So let's find oxygen and selenium. Here's oxygen. Selenium is 2 below it. Well, these are nonmetals. Now, if you remember from our trends, nonmetals increase in reactivity when you go up. They increase in reactivity when you go up. So oxygen should be more reactive than selenium because it's above it, so this one's false. Part C asks, though, about magnesium and strontium. Magnesium's over here, strontium's down here. Here we're talking about metals, and they're opposites, right? Metals get more reactive as you go down the periodic table. Strontium's lower, it should be more reactive. This statement is false. Part D, and we're talking about sizes now. Iodine atom is bigger than an atom of tin. So here we find iodine, and we go a couple over, and we can find tin. Now, if we remember from our trends, atoms get smaller as you go to the right, as you go across a group. So, I'm sorry, as you go across the period. So iodine should be smaller. This one is false. Let's take a look at the next one. A calcium atom is larger than an atom of zinc and an atom of magnesium. So here we find our calcium. Let's go find zinc. Well, zinc is to the right of it, same period, but to the right. So yep, calcium is bigger than the zinc, right? You know, because the size decreases as we go across. So zinc is going to be smaller than calcium, and that part's true. How about magnesium? We look at calcium, it's below magnesium. Well, that fits with the other trend. We know the atoms get bigger as you go down. So yes, this one's true. Calcium is larger than zinc, and calcium is larger than magnesium. Then we have question F here to finish out this section. Neon is more reactive than bromine. So let's go find neon. Here's neon over here. Where's bromine? Bromine is over here. Well, if you remember, group 8 here rather, these are inert. These don't react at all. And we know that the group 7 here, these are the most reactive nonmetals. So that one's going to be false. Neon is not more reactive than bromine. Now we got questions about diameters. Put the following atoms in order of increasing diameter. 1 being the smallest and 4 being the largest. So here, if you remember, the largest atom is the one on the bottom left. Smallest atom is to the top right. So let's go through and find them. Where's sulfur? Here's sulfur. It's to the left of chlorine. So we know that sulfur is going to be bigger than chlorine. Where's aluminum? Aluminum is even farther to the left. So it's going to be bigger than sulfur. And where's sodium? Oh, that's all over here. So all 4 of these are in the same period. So we want to find the smallest is going to be the farthest right in the period. That's going to be chlorine. Next smallest, we got to go to the left till we find our next element. That's sulfur is going to be the next one. And then let's keep going left. We run into aluminum. And then finally we come over to sodium. Let's look at the next group here. Barium, beryllium, calcium, and magnesium. Well, these are all in the same group. So this first part A was about a period. Part B here is about a group. And we know as you go down, you get bigger. As you go down a group, you get bigger. So we want to find the one that's at the top of this group. That'd be beryllium. That's at the top of this group. Let's keep going down. Oh, then we run into magnesium, so that'll be the second one. Keep going down. Calcium, that'll be third. And then finally we run into barium, and that'll be the largest of that group. Finish out the front page of our Bellwork here. Circle the element that is more reactive out of the pair. More reactive out of the pair. So we got to figure out first where they are in the periodic table. Let's go over here and we find rubidium. Rubidium. There's rubidium right there. And beryllium. Beryllium. Now they're in different groups. They're different periods. So what do we know here? We know that group 1 is the most reactive of our metals. And we also know that as you go down, metals get more reactive. So not only is rubidium in a higher reactive group, it's also lower in that group. So we should know that rubidium here is going to be more reactive. Rubidium is in group 1, beryllium in group 2. Let's look at cesium and barium. Well, here's our cesium, right? Group 1. Here's our barium, group 2. Same period here, but we know that our group 1 period guys are more reactive. Our group 1 guys are more reactive, so that's going to be cesium. Let's look at neon and argon. Here's neon, here's argon. Well, they're both group 8. But wait a minute, group 8, these are the noble gases. These are inert. They don't react at all. So neither one of these is more reactive, right? Group 8 doesn't react. Sulfur and fluorine. Here's our sulfur. Fluorine's above it to the right. Well, we know that our halogens are group 7. That's the most reactive of our nonmetals. We also know that as you go up, the metals are more reactive. So we have a group 6 versus a group 7 here. We know group 7 is the more reactive, and higher up, you're more reactive. So this one's going to be fluorine. Krypton and bromine. So let's go here. There's our krypton. There's our bromine. Krypton, group 8, not reactive. Bromine, group 7, very reactive. So this guy's going to win. The bromine will be more reactive here. And finally, iodine or chlorine. Iodine's down in the bottom, down the lower part of group 7. Chlorine's higher up. So even though they're both group 7, the higher you go up in a nonmetal, the more reactive. This one's going to be chlorine. All right, let's look at the back here. Indicate the number of valence electrons in the following atoms. So remember, how if we found valence electrons, all we had to do was find its row in the periodic table. Find its group, rather, in the periodic table. So if you go on the periodic table and you find iodine, you're going to see it's in group 7. Right? So it's going to have 7 valence electrons. Strontium, group 2, 2 valence electrons. Potassium, group 1, 1 valence electron. Nitrogen, group 5, 5 valence electrons. Boron, group 3, 3 valence electrons. Hydrogen, group 1, 1 valence electron. Aluminum, group 5, group 3 rather, 3 valence electrons. Helium, group 8. Now, if you remember, helium's our exception here. It doesn't have 8 valence electrons. It only has 2. So be careful with helium. Sulfur, group 6. It's going to have 6 valence electrons. And bromine, group 7. It'll have 7 valence electrons. Classify the following atoms by type of ion. Is it a cation? Is it an anion? Is it neither? Or is it both? Wow, that's an interesting one. This is a little tougher. Let's look at this. So neon, right? We know if we see neon, it's in group 8. We know group 8 doesn't react at all. This isn't going to form an anion or a cation. This is not going to form either. So this will be neither of them. If we go over to calcium, calcium we see is a metal. Metals form cations. So for helium, that's all the way to the right. That's in the noble gases. It does not react. It's not going to form either. It's going to be neither. Bromine, group 7. It's a nonmetal. Nonmetals form anions. Oxygen, again, a nonmetal. And nonmetals form anions. And lithium is a metal. Right? So it's going to form an cation. And then 3 examples of elements in the respective section of the periodic table here. Halogens, this is anything in group 7, right? So we could use fluorine, chlorine, iodine, bromine, right? So anything in group 7 would give us our halogen. Our rare earth metals, right? Our rare earth metals, those are at the bottom of our periodic table there. Those are those 2 columns at the bottom. So it's those two bottom blocks, anything in those bottom blocks. An alkali metal, right? Alkali metal, that's our first group. So anything group 1, lithium, sodium, potassium, rubidium, cesium, francium. Noble gases, group 8, anything in that group 8 column. Helium, neon, argon, krypton, radon, xenon, a whole bunch of them there. Transition metals, that's that middle block on your periodic table. And finally, alkaline earth metals, this is group 2. So anything in group 2, beryllium, magnesium, calcium, strontium, barium, or radium. So that's it for our Bellwork today.